Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Massive matchup Saturday night in Norman, Oklahoma. Not many people giving Oklahoma a chance in this football game. And quite frankly, I took Tennessee in the points as well. That being said, how can Oklahoma get it done against Tennessee? This is a game where Oklahoma is certainly capable of winning this football game. You just look at these two teams and how they've played throughout the first three games. It's hard not to pick Tennessee in this matchup. Want to get into really three reasons we think Oklahoma can maybe have some success against Tennessee Saturday night. Really excited to get into this one now. Before we do, and as always, whether you're an Oklahoma fan, whether you're a Tennessee fan checking it out, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. This has been a game that it's been a blast for us to talk about all week. Can't thank you guys enough for the support. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, national media ain't giving them a chance. ESPN analytics ain't giving Oklahoma a chance. Let's get into why Oklahoma might have a chance in this football game. And it starts with this Oklahoma front seven. And Dill, I think you said stylistically, you think Oklahoma has a damn good chance at potentially stopping this Tennessee rushing attack that you check your notes. They run the football 68% of the time. That's ninth most in the country. They average 7.1 yards per carry, number 3 in the country. Tennessee's run the football well all year. This is a different front seven that they're going to be seeing on the road. How can Oklahoma slow this Tennessee rushing attack down?
I think that's kind of, you said it. They haven't really seen a defense that I think can physically potentially match them. And you even look, NC State runs a bit of a small ball kind of defense. If you run that 3-5 kind of look, they don't have a ton of guys in the middle who are really, really tough against double teams. And that's what I'm looking for Oklahoma. I mean, what Tennessee wants to do, it's pretty easy. And we talked about it. Or it's pretty simple, I should say. Not easy to stop, obviously, because you still got to physically go line up and do it against a really good offensive line. But when I look at guys like DeJounte Terry Williams, even Jaden Jackson, the young guy, like these are guys who I think if they're on their game and they're playing the right way and very willing to kind of be unselfish in this football game and eat those double teams up, I think they can give a Tennessee a bit of a problem in that gap scheme attack they like to do. Because if you can't move guys off the ball, that Tennessee offense, their scheme doesn't really work. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Can these defensive tackles especially be really, really tough against doubles and give Stutzman, give McKenzie, give Kip Lewis, those linebackers chances to run through, fill gaps hard, and be physical and shut this run game down.
I think that's the huge storyline in this football game. Tennessee is number 1 in the country in scoring. It's because nobody's really been able to match Tennessee in terms of what their offensive line can do in the run blocking department. Oklahoma has a chance at doing that. And then the question is, what does this Tennessee offense look like when they're not necessarily running the football super efficiently? Now, we're not saying that's going to happen, but if Oklahoma has a shot in this football game, I think they have a chance at giving Tennessee some problems stopping the run. Dill, I think one thing that's really interesting here, this is why Oklahoma went out and got Dom Williams. Everyone thinks Dominic Williams, he's not a box score guy. He only had, 3.5 sacks last year. Why are you going out and getting Dominic Williams? It's for these kind of football games to match up with the Tennessee team along the lines of scrimmage.
And you said back the thing Dominic Williams has done. I mean, that game against Michigan being really, really tough, tying up the offensive linemen, not letting them get up to linebackers. And then you look at what TCU was able to do behind that with their linebackers having big games, guys like D. Winters and the rest of them. They were able to do it because he was able to tie that offensive line up. That, again, I think you've seen flashes of Dominic Williams certainly doing that. I think in certain games this year, it seems like he's been, to me, a little bit more wants to get into the backfield. This is the type of game him, DeJounte Terry, again, guys like Jaden Jackson are going to need to just kind of be unselfish in a sense, be able to eat blocks up. And then the second part of that to me is what the linebackers can do, because one thing about Oklahoma's linebackers, especially Danny Stutzman, is they'll come downhill, they'll be physical. And Tennessee's done a really, really good job of manning their gaps, getting off their double teams, picking up running linebackers. But Stutzman in particular might be the best in the game at doing it. Now, what I'll be looking for is I think Kobe McKenzie or Kip Lewis kind of replicate a little bit of what Stutzman can do, because he can't be the only one against this team.
Yeah, Stutzman, I think he's the best linebacker in the country. 18 run stops on the season through 3 games is an absolute ludicrous number. Playing behind the defensive line, like you said, DeJounte Terry, Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson. I would throw in Grayson Hall, and I know it's a different flavor, but that kid's been playing some really good football. I think what it comes down to is, what happens if Tennessee can't run the football like they've had the first 3 games. Then I think Oklahoma has a chance. Now, secondly, like Tennessee's got some talented wide receivers. We damn sure well know they have a talented quarterback. One of the things I was looking at, and this was one of my keys to the game, your kind of key was stopping the run. They're looking at Nico's spray chart in terms of where he goes with the football. They haven't thrown the football that much, right? They are top 10 in the country in terms of rush rate. But when they do ask Nico to throw, it's a lot of RPO attack in the middle of the field behind the linebackers, right? Sucking the linebackers in and throwing it behind them. This used to give Oklahoma a really big problem in 2023. With Zach Alley coming in, there's been a philosophical change in terms of how they're addressing that. They are using their safeties to come down to the middle of the field and kind of ball hawk a little bit and account for that middle. Guys like Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowman, Kendall Doby, Nico wants to attack the middle of the field. Can Oklahoma potentially force a few turnovers with some of those ball hawking corner or safeties? And you're probably leaving your cornerbacks on islands. But if you're Oklahoma, you're trying to take away the bread and butter of this Tennessee passing attack and forcing Nico to attack the boundaries, which I think he can do, but we haven't seen a ton of it during his young career. That's probably the second thing that I'm looking at for this Oklahoma defense to potentially give this high-powered Tennessee offense some struggles.
Well, I think you're kind of spot on because at the end of the day, they need to find some way to make Nico uncomfortable, and he hasn't been made to do that yet this year. Obviously, with the way they've run the football, the way they've been able to attack the middle of the field, especially off of play action, it's made his life relatively easy, I think, as a quarterback. And that's not to take anything away from him. He's made his plays. When he's had his shots on the boundary, he has hit a handful of them, but he hasn't been asked to do it over and over and over and be consistent in a defense that is giving him something that does put him outside of his comfort zone. So I think you kind of said it. I mean, it's going to be first, stop the run, second, take away the middle of the field, and then go see if he can make a bunch of really big time throws to the boundary against, frankly, corners who are playing much better for Oklahoma than I thought they did last year. I think Connie Walker in particular is a guy who I thought has played great football. Des Malone's played pretty good. Woody's still pretty good. That'll be a big key
At,
is
at,
making him uncomfortable.
at the that's kind of how I'll wrap it up. Like at the end of the day, Tennessee's offense hasn't looked uncomfortable for a second in 2024. Can you make them look uncomfortable? And then can you make them look uncomfortable with a rowdy environment that we're going to see in Norman, Oklahoma? That's how it kind of snowballs. You talk about avenues for Oklahoma to win this football game at 7.5-point dogs. That's the avenue right there. Now going to the offense, look, our biggest question mark for Oklahoma heading into the season was the offensive line. It continues to be our biggest question mark heading into week 4 against Tennessee. All right, Dill, I think a lot of Oklahoma fans would agree with this. I don't see Oklahoma suddenly flipping a switch and running the football super effectively against Tennessee's defense. Like you look at Tennessee, they are allowing 2.5 yards per carry to opposing offenses. That's number 2 in the country. Oklahoma has struggled to run the football on teams like Houston and Tulane. And so I think a lot of Oklahoma fans would agree. I don't think we see this Oklahoma rushing attack all of a sudden explode. That being said, with a rushing attack that maybe is struggling to start the season, how can you figure out a way to win on first and second down? Like everybody wants to talk about Oklahoma on third down only converting 30% of the time. That's 95th in the country. Yeah, execution on third down, it's been a problem for Oklahoma. I ain't trying to argue that. But I think the bigger problem is you're in third and longs pretty consistently because you can't run the football. So you might not have a ton of success running the football against Tennessee, but what are some ways that you can stay efficient and win on first and second down, stay in some of those third manageable situations, swing passes, guys like Deion Burks on the perimeter, kind of the extension of the run game. Like as a Bills fan, back in 2021, the Bills couldn't run the football worth a damn all of 2021. But what they could do is, kind of get it to the perimeter and kind of have a passing game as an extension of the run game. I think that's what Oklahoma needs to do, right? Because what you don't want to do against Tennessee is stay in those third and long positions. Because you look at Oklahoma and pass, bro, they haven't been great. You're looking at one of the best pass rush units, I think, in the country with Tennessee. You got to figure out a way to keep Jackson Arnold in comfortable situations where it is those third and short spots. You're not getting behind the chains. I don't think it's going to be the run game. So if you're Seth Luttrell and this offensive coaching staff, you got to get in your bag and kind of figure out some concepts that you can go to win on first and second down.
And that still, I think, is make Tennessee's secondary tackle because they've been much better this year.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, last year was a big problem. They've pretty much turned that unit over, and they've been playing well. But Even in that NC State game, that was a big thing we talked. Like, can you get Kevin Concepcion in good spots against that secondary to make plays? NC State really, really struggled to do that. And Grace McCall was kind of playing a little bit sloppy. Obviously, their offensive line was a little bit overwhelmed, frankly. But that is a big thing. Is Deion Burks, especially, is one of those guys who I think is really, really tough to deal with. You've already seen it. I think they can get him the ball in some more easy access situations, right? It feels like a lot of the time they've been using him kind of over the middle, using him for like quick button hook kind of plays. And that's been what they've been going to. But I'm kind of with you. Why not try to get the stuff to the perimeter? Even a guy like Tatum, I think, can be really, really dangerous. He's got a little bit more burst, a little bit more acceleration than I think the other running backs have. They need to find some way to get that group rolling, get guys in space, and force Tennessee to tackle, because that's still probably my fundamentally biggest question is what can this Tennessee secondary do from a tackling standpoint? And I don't think they've yet been tested because the front seven's been able to control the games.
Yeah, totally agree. I think look, Tennessee secondary has been pretty dang good to start the season, but it's
And
still
again, it's not me to say like it's a big problem because it hasn't been a big problem, but somebody has to try to make it a big problem, and especially for Oklahoma, when you kind of know the rushing attack's not really going to flow through that offensive line, they need to find some way to get their playmakers, who are really, really dynamic, to go match up
yeah,
and
you're playing what we think is the number 4 team in the country. Like the AP poll might have them at 6, the boys have them at number 4. Like you're gonna have to figure out some ways to have some success because there are certain matchups that don't favor you, but there might be some matchups that can favor you. That's what you got to get to. Still going to be a really fun game for the Tennessee fans that probably wanted to pull their hair out for the last 12 minutes. We're going to be doing the same episode for Tennessee to beat Oklahoma, so you guys can tune into that. Appreciate y'all rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.